The hidden engine behind SAP ERP, how MRP powers everything. Today you're going to learn about the hidden engine that makes SAP ERP possible, Manufacturing Resource Planning, or MRP II. Without it, global supply chains, aerospace production, and even your favorite tech gadgets wouldn't exist as they do today. But what exactly is MRP II, and why does SAP ERP depend on it? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have a deep understanding of how this core concept manages everything, from inventory to production, giving you a crucial edge in SAP consulting. How did I come to know about MRP II and SAP? It all started a very long time ago, in the late 1980s, before I had ever heard of SAP. I was an aircraft maintenance officer assigned to the San Antonio Air Logistics Center, where I oversaw the efforts of about 350 maintenance technicians who were involved in overhauling the C-130 Hercules cargo transport airplane. Things were not going well when I arrived. Every airplane, not just my C-130s, but the C-5As and B-52s, were all coming out of the depot way late and way over budget. In fact, the B-52 was taking about 18 months to come out of the depot, when it was scheduled to take only 9 months. The story was similar for the C-130 as well as the C-5A. Over budget, behind schedule, and often with severe quality issues. You would have thought that by now, decades after aircraft had been invented, that we would have had this process down to a science. We did, in fact, have many computerized planning and scheduling systems and other systems that were supposed to drive the process. From an end user perspective, the output of these systems was a daily dump of approximately 32 bundles of fine print computerized reports that theoretically told you what to do, where, when, and how long it should take. It also told you which types of skill sets, mechanics, you would need. It was also supposed to help our production controllers ensure spare parts were available at the job site when needed. To be honest, these reports came tied together with twine and were never even open most days. For the most part, none of that worked. That's the background to where I learned the concepts behind MRP II, or Manufacturing Resources Planning. The Air Force knew we had a problem, and they had initiated a program to fix the messed up information management systems, of which there were many, some 600 in all, it would turn out. It was known as DMIS, or Depot Maintenance Management Information System. I was assigned to be part of the team working on this. And the first thing they did was send me on a course on MRP II, taught, I believe, by Oliver Weinman, a consultancy. I got certified in each of the modules of MRP II, which consisted of the following modules: rough cut capacity planning, capacity requirements planning, inventory control, item master, bills of materials module, DMIS forecasting module, master production scheduling, material requirements planning, routing file, work center files, cost management, shop floor control, tool and fixture master. Due to the first Gulf War, I was reassigned to Torrejon Air Base, Spain, where I worked on the F-16. While MRP II training was useful, and not all training is, but this was, I would not see these subjects again in a work environment for almost 10 years when I got my SAP Materials Management certification. Meanwhile, the DMIS project would take years to complete, and I'm not sure it ever did. But before I left the depot, I also worked on a project to improve throughput using a new tool which allowed us to integrate all the various IT systems that were supposed to allow us to plan and execute depot overhauls. This integration was very difficult back then, as it continues to be even to this day. Basically, it was an industrial strength project management tool, which allowed you to dynamically update project plans based on the best available information on a daily basis. What was so special about this project management system? It was the first time we had the ability to identify and take into account constraints. The theory of constraints was being introduced to the world at the same time as we were doing this project. What's a constraint? In that environment, where we had many constraints, one major constraint was the paint barn. It was a gigantic hangar. It could house a C-5A, and it took a fairly predictable amount of time and materials to process a single airplane through it. It was a positive air pressure environment, meaning pressurized to keep contaminants out. It was full of hazardous materials and lots of other hazards. To put this in context, you have to imagine the scale of the depot. At any one time, we had about 17 B-52s, 35 C-130s, and 5 C-5As in the main building and nearly 27 square miles of ramp space we occupied. We also had a gigantic engine overhaul line, and we repaired thousands of components in hundreds of machine shops and test cells, and even a foundry. All this activity was carried out by about 35,000 civilian employees and almost 4,000 active duty guys like me. It was also a central supply depot, which was so large that it had locomotives and train tracks running between the miles of buildings where they stored stuff, much of which they didn't know what it was. The results from using this new project management tool were simply amazing. B-52s came into the depot at a rate of approximately 1 every 2 weeks. We had to implement this new system 1 airplane at a time. So we started with a single B-52, and the very first one that went through the depot overhaul process using this new project management system completed 2 weeks ahead of schedule, the original schedule. This brought global attention to what we were doing. What do you need to really take away from this about MRP II? One, MRP II consists of many modules, which all must talk to each other. It replaced MRP, or Materials Requirements Planning, which only dealt with a small part of the planning process. It isn't just for manufacturing. It also serves industries, just not the way you might imagine. ERP expands on the MRP II concept. Most people are unaware of the relationship between MRP, MRP II, and SAP ERP. MRP II covers 13 modules, but SAP Core covers 16 core modules. The extras are kind of a big deal: sales and marketing, human resources, and product lifecycle management, or PLM. MRP still exists. It's just incorporated within the larger context of MRP II. ERP, whether SAP or some other provider, normally expands the core concept out both horizontally and vertically. SAP's key differentiator, at least while I was a SAP industry principal, are its industry solutions. MRP II would seem to be ideal only in a production environment, such as an aircraft factory. But it turns out you can also create an industry-oriented solution based on the MRP II concept for just about every type of industry, from petroleum, oil, to railroads. By the way, I was the SAP industry principal for 6 different industries, including aerospace and defense, logistics, postal, travel and transportation, think airlines, rail, ship, truck, metro, utilities, and professional services. Think SAP consulting, like what we provide. For each one of these industries, you had to take a German-style certification test, which I took and passed. And I considered them to be enormously complex for each industry. Now that you have a basic understanding of what the MRP II modules are, it should make it easier to understand the beast that is SAP ERP. What I want you to take away from this short presentation on MRP II and how it powers the concept of SAP ERP is this: while it seems obvious today, it wasn't always obvious why you would want to do planning this way, nor how you could do it. If you're a SAP customer or SAP consultant or a highly experienced SAP project manager like me, or industry principal, you won't often see a business process presented to you the way this abstract model works. But the SAP solution that you implement will be based on the underlying assumptions of the model. If you have a business problem that needs the services of an SAP consultant, my team and I can help. Just go to the description and the link will be there and make your request. Thanks. I'm Lonnie Ayers, President of SAP BW Consulting and 26-year SAP veteran.